Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and in this episode, this Jada Toys 1/24th scale Ecto1 is going to get a makeover in a very dark style. So I pull inspiration from a lot of places, and Instagram is one of them. Dead Sled brand, which is what I follow a lot on, is posted a rendering that they found on the interwebs of a dark version of the Ecto1. Supposedly this was an alternate version. Didn't really look into it too much, but I saw it and I really liked the idea of a dark version Ecto. Now I took some liberties with this and didn't make it exactly to the rendering, but I did like the black version and decided to kind of go that route, but added a little bit of a flair to the wheels and the engine. So step one obviously is going to be taking this thing apart. Now, I'm used to 1/64 scale cars. You get, two rivets, pop it apart, and you get a few pieces. This has a lot of pieces and a lot of screws. Everything was kind of held on with either screws or glue, so it really wasn't horrible, but it was just time consuming. I have a set of Krager wheels, chrome wheels with the slicks in the back and a little bit thinner in the front. This was out of a 1/24 scale Nova model kit. And I had to do a little bit of drilling to get the original wheel axles that came on the Jada Toys car to fit. I had to drill out the Krager rims because the axle on the model kit was much smaller. Then width-wise, I obviously had to make a few changes to the axles. I just cut those off, and I was able to stick those into the wheels, and I didn't have to shorten anything insofar as the frame. The wheel wells didn't have to be hored out or anything like that. Everything kind of worked out really well. And I mean, it's a tight, snug fit, especially inside with the fender skirts. It's a little bit of a struggle, but it fit pretty well. Then I robbed this Slammers kit that I happen to have. I got a ton of model kits that I don't do anything with. And I wanted the blower and the velocity stacks off of this to be able to kind of spruce up the engine compartment. Because if this is going to be a kind of a dark version, I wanted some horsepower. And, you got Kragers, you got to have a little bit of a rake and a little bit of horsepower. So the old caddies had more than enough room. You could have a picnic inside the engine compartment. So really nothing did stick out from the hood. I mean, if it is, it's very minuscule, but I just thought it kind of looked cool. So once I have what I want, I've got to do a little bit of trimming on the actual engine compartment. It was very basic. It had an air cleaner in the center, which I took out. It's got a molded radiator hose that's kind of one piece that goes all the way down to the base. You have to grind that down. There's a few tabs to grind down. Then a few modifications to the blower housing. And this is all stuff you're not going to really see. I mean, you can pop the hood, but it doesn't lift up all the way. I just thought it looked kind of cool. And I wanted to do more with 1/24 scale die cast as well as models. So this was just kind of a fun project for me. I've got not that I don't need it, I've probably got 15 projects going at once. I really don't need to do this, but it was just when inspiration, and tell me if you guys are the same, if anybody on here is a builder. I start working on one project and I get to a certain point and then I see something shiny and I'm like, oh, I got to start another project. And next thing you know, you got 15 projects going at once and you don't have the oomph to finish any of them. You have to force yourself to. So this was one of those projects this was my squirrel. So I decided to cut a hole inside the engine compartment. Again, the velocity stacks don't really stick up too much, but just to be safe, I figured I'd cut a hole in there. It's pretty easy to do. Just drill 4 holes, one in each corner, and then I used a coping saw or jeweler's saw to cut out the rest and then file smooth and make it as clean as you can. It wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't take that long. Make sure you use the beeswax on these saws. It makes a huge difference. You don't blow through as many blades. And, if anybody's using one of these jeweler's saws, if you just twist your wrist the wrong way, the thing snaps. So the beeswax helps quite a bit, to be honest with you. Every time I make a cut or if I have to take take the saw out for whatever reason, I always redo it on the wax. Wax is cheap, and you'll never run out if you buy any. So the body and the doors and any kind of body panel, I just scuffed up with Scotch-Brite, then wiped it down with isopropyl alcohol. Then, you know, the scuffing of it with the Scotch-Brite gave it enough for the primer to adhere. And what's funny is I ended up liking the look of the black primer that I put on it, which was the Mr. Surfacer, I think it was. And it came out so good that that's the color I went with. The interior, I primed it with a dark gray because I didn't want a black interior in a black car. And I really liked the color for the seats of that darker primer gray. So I went over the body with the matte clear, and then I decided I wanted the front chrome pieces. I wanted this car to be black, but I didn't want it all black, but I didn't want the chrome to be too shiny. So what I did is the bumpers, the front window molding, and then these bullets that run along the front fenders, the top edge, I'm going to paint those with the Spastic chrome because I can control how much chrome I put on it. You paint it with, you prime it, then you paint it gloss black. Then you can take the chrome, you put it in your airbrush, and you just barely, you can mist it on or you can put it on heavy. However you put it on, it'll be how dark it goes. I put it on fairly light, so it still has a very blackish feel to it, but it's still obviously chrome. So it worked out really well. The interior, like I said, I wanted to keep the dark gray, but I put some black highlights in it, and then I added some chrome highlights. And then I went and just did a bunch of details in the engine, not the engine compartment, but the back compartment where they would sit when they go on their missions. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. I will say I'm a huge Ecto1 fan. I went to go see the movie back when it came out, the original one, in the theater. Is one of the few movies I actually went to as a kid. And I liked the movie. And for the time, I thought it was great. But I really just I fell more in love with the car. I mean, I'm a car guy. And every movie I judge based on the cars that are in it, you know, and whether they destroy those cars or not. There's nothing irritates me more as a car guy. I don't care if it's you know, like a mock-up of a car. You know, I know a lot of times they have like a good film car that they use for close-ups and everything else, and the car is mint. And then for stunts and stuff, they use various cars of, you know, they just kind of quickly paint them and make them look halfway decent, but they're not really mint cars. But I have a tendency to judge movies based on the cars that are in them and how bad they destroy those cars. The Ecto1 was just, it was one of those things. I hadn't seen it before, and I liked it. So this is all the pieces, all detail painted, ready to be assembled. Assembling process took a while, but if you remember, this is what I started with. And remember, this is 1/24th scale. And this is what I ended up with. I ended up making up some decals for the door on my Cricket. And then I made bumper stickers on the back. I cut out each one of those letters and put them on a black background. It was a pain in the ass. But I liked the idea of putting that dead inside. The pictures are much better than the video. I'm in the process of getting another camera. I've been using a GoPro 11. I like it for some stuff, but the detail stuff is just really bad. So I've got another camera on my card. I just haven't pulled the trigger because when I was doing this before my hiatus, I ended up giving my wife my camera. So it is gone forever. I had a nice Canon. It wasn't mirrorless, but it was a very nice camera, and I miss it, but I don't have the guts to ask for it back because she's a photographer and it's her backup camera. So anyways, other than that, I got this video and a bunch of pictures coming up. I did have a blast doing this. It's a lot more work going from a 1/24th scale from a 1/64th to a 1/24th, but definitely easier to paint. There's a lot more to paint, but it's definitely easier to paint. So hopefully you guys got some inspiration out of this. That's the only reason I do these videos. I enjoy it. It's therapy, but at the same time, I hope it sparks some creativity in somebody. and it gives you an idea to do something either exactly the same, similar, or even better, hopefully. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.